Andrew Tate have really helped to expose a problem in Christianity that we're all vulnerable to today.
Long time.
I know, it's been a very long time.
And that's a problem of just how easily we can be deceived by people due to our tendency to give more precedence to political convictions rather than our Christian convictions. And this doesn't just stop with Candace Owens, it goes much, much deeper. Now, first off, I don't know Candace's motives, but if you start watching the first few minutes of her interview with Andrew Tate, you'll quickly notice that she seems to be taking a protective posture towards Tate as they address the damning clips going around of Tate bragging about the same crimes he's currently being charged with.
So I did see a mashup clip that we're not going to show because I thought it was unfair. I will say that. Yeah. Only because there was no context provided to the clips. It was, and I also take exception to, I think, digging back 10 years. How have you transformed? I've seen changes just, I think, in the last 5 years.
Yep. The idea that you did something 10 years ago, which you would no longer agree with, is one thing. I don't think anybody is finding any clips from the last 5 to 6 years which have anything negative in them.
Right. I think you've changed. That's why I said over the last 5 years, I think there's been a seismic shift.
All right. So given the conversation so far, they seem to be in agreement that those damning clips of Tate were made 10 years ago and that now Tate is a changed man. The only problem is those clips that were included in the mashup were not all from 10 years ago. And in fact, out of the main 3 clips that were shown in the mashup, one of them was streamed only 3 years ago and another one was streamed only 2 years ago. In the one that was streamed live in 2020, again, not 10 years ago, Tate seemed very proud of his past work and was actively selling his PhD course, which was by definition a course on how to do the very thing that he was arrested for.
Yeah, on CobraTate.com I have my PhD program, and that is PhD is a pimp and hose degree that I'm
clever.
And that teaches basically how I got girls, how I met girls, how I got girls to like me, how I got girls to fall in love with me to work on webcam for me. Because that's what I did. That was my MO, was find girls, make them love me, and make them work for me. And that's how I got rich. So that teaches everything I know from start to finish about not only getting girls, not only obtaining them, but retaining them, because that's a completely different game as well.
And here's another video that was filmed during the pandemic in which Tate not only talks about being involved in the same pornographic business, but he also demonstrates for us his views on women, which don't seem any different than his views were in the oldest clips that we have of Tate.
Currently filming this during the COVID pandemic. You may be watching this later on, but right now during the pandemic, I also have an OnlyFans business. For the last 2 to 3 years, I've been making money on OnlyFans from its inception all the way up till now. And the reason I started this course is because a lot of people have been asking me, Tate, how do you get girls to work for you on OnlyFans? Why would a girl work for you and not decide to do it by themselves? First things first, the reason women need a man to do OnlyFans is the same reason a woman need a man to do anything, because they're incompetent and they're very, very lazy. And they're stupid.
All right, now let's be clear on what this doesn't show. This doesn't show that he's guilty of his current crimes, but what it does show is that it's not enough to dismiss those past clips on the premise that Tate has proven himself to be a changed man in the last 5 to 10 years. In fact, as far as I can tell, Tate didn't show any significant change in his attitude about his past behavior prior to his arrest. In the Full Send podcast interview of Tate, which was recorded not too long before his arrest, Tate not only bragged about what he did in the past, but he also said that he didn't feel bad at all for the men that he deceived into losing their homes and life savings.
So the chicks would sit there and hit a keyboard that wasn't plugged in. And me and my brother, and eventually some staff I trained, would do all the talking. The girls were just famoosers, just laughing and doing this, the out. And they were talking to ice cold hustlers. We were taking their money, all of it. I had these guys selling their houses, life savings, loans, all of it to me. Give me it all. So like, and it's basic shit, right? You'd have a guy.
Feel bad or no?
No, to give a solitary.
Now, that was from a year ago, so I'll let you decide. Does this sound like a man who radically changed his mindset about his cam modeling business and the way that he thinks about women? Now, of course, it's possible that he changed his mindset after his arrest. And if so, we'd expect for him to be regretful about the things that he said and done in his past. But even when he's talking to Candace, he said that he's not regretful for what he did and he's not sorry for it either.
I'm not the kind of person who's going to sit and apologize for his past. I'd be a fool and I'd be disingenuous to sit here and pretend I was sorry for something I did in the past. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be very honest to everyone at home. I think I could have done much worse things. I know many people from my circumstances who did many things worse than what I did. And all in all, I'm not going to sit and pretend I'm sorry for something I'm not sorry for.
So I don't know how much Tate has changed since his arrest, but one thing that I do know is the fact that Candace seems to be deceived by this narrative that he's changed drastically in the last 5 to 6 years. And unfortunately, it gets worse. If you spend even a half hour researching the things that Tate says, you'll see that almost everything that he said to Candace Owens has been contradicted by what he said elsewhere.
I ended up opening a webcam company where girls would sit on a laptop and they would talk to guys on the internet for money. That's what they would do.
So the chicks would sit there and hit a keyboard that wasn't plugged in. And me and my brother, and eventually some staff I trained, would do all the talking.
The girls would sit there fully clothed or a bikini. Some of them would paint pictures. Some of them would sing songs.
I ran a webcam studio, which people find very interesting. I had naked girls sitting on the internet talking to guys.
The girls would sit there fully clothed or a bikini.
They're sitting there with their tits out on a computer. They're sitting on a computer. They're getting paid, just like if they were sitting in any other job and getting paid. They just haven't got the top on.
I didn't sell drugs.
So when I was 24, 25, I sold drugs. Long time ago now.
I didn't sell drugs.
I'm gonna be honest and open about my past. I was a fighter, but fighting wasn't paying the bills, sold drugs, whatever.
I didn't sell drugs.
So I'm selling drugs.
First off, how long ago was your webcam business?
Yeah, so I stopped having any involvement with it. I think 8 to 9 years ago I stopped. It was a long time ago. It was at the early stages of the internet.
4 years I ran a webcam studio.
You do that still?
I have 3 girls who still work for me.
Not to mention that Tate's business partner and brother Tristan said on the live stream just 1 year ago that the cam business was still going as well.
The cam business is it's still going because my most loyal girls will never leave me. That's why it's going. So I have these girls on these various webcam websites who will never, ever, ever leave. So it's not that I need the money or that I want to do it. It's just that I know these girls aren't going anywhere. If I managed to bully them out of Romania and kick them out of the country, they'd be happy at making far less money by themselves. I may as well keep the business together if you're going to make it that easy for me.
And the Tates always say that there's absolutely no evidence against them.
These are only some of the files and transcripts on the Tates. Does this look like no evidence?
Anything you see from before 2021 has nothing to do with the case.
Well, that's odd since the indictment specifically is citing incidents from 2016, 2017, 2018, and all the way up until their arrest in 2022.
Everything from these old videos, old clips, my webcam company, things that happened 10 years ago have absolutely nothing to do with the current case.
According to the large 86-page case file that you can get legally through Romania's Freedom of Information Act, on page 61, you'll see that they're quoting Tate out of several of his past videos and using that as evidence against them. It even explicitly says on the file that the judge could not agree with the defense's claim that these video contents show only one character and cannot be taken into account. So when Tate says that none of it's relevant to the case and that none of it can be found in the case file and so on, he's counting on you to just take his word for it. Because as you can see, they are clearly in the case file and anyone can get access to this information, which I've linked down below. Now, I want to be clear, that doesn't mean that they're guilty of the crimes. It just means that